a cemetery sits quietly at the edge of a busy Portland street. Just beyond it, the city begins to bloom again. But here, something remains. A place shaped by a man who is not buried within it. A hillside that once threatened to give way. And stories that survived, even when records did not. Welcome to Brainard Cemetery. This is Stories in Stone. Tucked into Portland's Montavilla neighborhood, Brainard Cemetery is easy to overlook. It covers just over 1 acre. A small space surrounded on all sides by homes, sidewalks, and the steady flow of Northeast Glisan Street. But in the 1880s, this was not in a city. This was open land, rural and quiet. And in 1884, a local settler named William Ebenezer Brainard set aside part of this land for a cemetery. A place for the growing community to bury their dead close to home. Not far from here, Brainard built a home in 1888. Even today, it stands quietly within the neighborhood. A reminder of a time when Portland was still shaped by its open land and small farms. But there's something unexpected about the man behind this cemetery. When William Brainard died in 1911, he was not buried here. Instead, he was laid to rest in nearby Rose City Cemetery. The man who created this place rests somewhere else entirely. A quiet detail, but one that leaves an impression. Brainard Cemetery sits on a gentle rise of land. At its edge, the ground falls sharply towards Northeast Glisan Street. Today, it feels stable, quiet, contained. But in the early 20th century, the edge became a point of concern. In 1913, East Glisan Street was graded beside the cemetery. The work required cutting into the earth along its boundary. To hold the ground in place, a wooden bulkhead was built along the edge. But over time, that support began to fail. Reports warned that graves near the edge could slide toward the street below. A place meant for rest, suddenly at risk of movement. Eventually, a more permanent retaining structure stabilized the ground. But the moment remains part of this cemetery's history, a reminder of how easily the past can be unsettled. There's another part of this story that cannot be seen, only felt. At some point in the cemetery's early years, the records disappeared. The person responsible for managing the burial documentation vanished. And with them, many of the official records of who was buried here were lost. Families were left without certainty. Plot locations became unclear. And in some cases, the only remaining record of a person's burial was the stone placed above them. The cemetery became its own archive. Names preserved in marble, dates held in quiet ground. A fragile kind of history, one that depends on what remains and what was found. By the mid-20th century, Brainard Cemetery had fallen into neglect. Brush overtook the land, headstones were damaged, or left leaning where they had fallen. For a time, it seemed this small cemetery might quietly fade from memory, but the community returned. In 1950, local volunteers began clearing the grounds. They reset stones, they made space visible again. A few years later, Multnomah County took ownership of the cemetery, and today, it is maintained as part of Metro's historic cemetery program, a place preserved not by accident, but by care. Among those buried here is Union Civil War veteran Allen Leonard Swain. His grave is simple, a flat marker set into the ground, marked with the symbol of the Grand Army of the Republic. A small star, easy to miss, but meaningful. Swain was born in 1841. He lived through the Civil War, and later, like many others, he made his way west to Oregon. He lived to the age of 93, and now he rests here in this small cemetery at the edge of the city. But Swain is not alone. Brainard Cemetery holds several Civil War veterans, men who once marched across distant battlefields, and later became part of this small community. Among them are Henry Frederick Marble, Daniel Webster Butler, Henry Whitmer Miller. Their markers are mostly modest. No grand monuments, no long inscriptions, just names and quiet symbols set into the earth. A small cemetery connected to a much larger history. Across Portland, the first signs of spring begin to appear. Cherry blossoms open along the Willamette River. Soft petals move with the breeze, a familiar signal that the season is changing. Here, in Brainard Cemetery, the change comes more slowly. The trees are still bare, the air still carries the cold of winter, but small signs begin to appear. A bud forming on a branch, a flower left behind on a grave, a quiet shift, life returning, slowly. Brainard Cemetery is small, easy to pass by, easy to overlook, and yet it has endured. Through growth, through uncertainty, through time. The man who founded it rests elsewhere. The records that once defined it are gone, and still the names remain. Carved into stone, held in quiet ground, a small place, holding a long memory. If you find meaning in places like this, and in the stories they continue to hold, consider subscribing to join me in future walks through history. It helps support the channel, and ensures these stories continue to be told.